Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara and today we're going to be looking at how to clear karma, okay? So this video is going to be based off of my own personal experience, psychic insights that I've seen psychically. So as usual, you guys can take what resonates and leave behind what does not. I have received this question quite a bit because in astrology we do talk a lot about karma. So first thing we need to understand is that karma is a balancing of energies, okay? So a lot of the time what tends to happen is people think that karma is bad because it's just the connotation that we have associated with it. You know, I hope that person gets their karma, you'll get your karma, karma's gonna get you. A lot of the time it's very negative. I'm here to tell you guys that it's not negative or positive. It is a balancing of energies, okay? That's really what's taking place. So let's say, for example, simplest example, in a past life, okay, you did something for someone. Well, in this lifetime, they're indebted to you, okay, if it was not cleared in that particular lifetime. So they have to pay you back, whatever it is, okay? Maybe you bought them a house, maybe in this lifetime they buy you a house, right? They have to basically repay you in whatever way, shape, or form to clear the karma. So that's really what happens when we talk about karmic clearance. And a lot of the time, what I've found is that it's going to be the smallest thing that you would ever think of. A lot of the time, we do think of those big examples, right? You did something grand, you did something huge, but sometimes it's going to be something like in a past life, you left a person without giving them an explanation, right? Ghosted them, I guess is what we would call it. In this lifetime, you don't want to repeat the pattern. You're here to learn the lesson. So a huge thing to understand with karma and the karmic wheel and the law of karma and all these things is that basically when we come down to earth, okay, all souls have some sort of mission to complete, okay? That's really what's going on. We all have some sort of mission, some sort of desire, some sort of evolution, some sort of soul growth, okay? So we come here to learn these things because that's really what earth is, okay? It's a school and we're here to learn. That's the only thing that we're doing here. We're learning and we're evolving. Once you start looking at every situation like this, your life becomes a lot easier, okay? Because in every circumstance, you're going to be like, what is this person teaching me? Or what am I teaching that person, right? And a lot of the time, you're going to feel karma is very intense, very heavy. You can't leave the situation, right? Because a lot of the time, and this is why I think people fear Saturn so much, right? When we talk about Saturn and karma, because basically what Saturn does is it forces you, it restricts you, okay? Basically backs you into a corner to look at the karma, okay? In whatever house you have it in. So that's really what it does, okay? Backs you into this corner and it's kind of like, it's basically exploding in your face, right? Whatever the karma is you have to clear and you don't get to get out of it until it's cleared. So that's something interesting that I've learned with astrology, okay? Especially when I was younger, I wanted everything to be very fast and, you know, like one and done. But something that I've learned with time, okay, is that certain things take time, especially karmic clearance, right? So the thing is, a lot of the time it's contingent on you as a person. So for example, you say to your guys, to your spirit team, I want to clear whatever karma I have to clear in this lifetime. Well, you know what? That's not going to be an easy task, okay? Because you're going to be put into these circumstances, like I explained to you guys, it feels very restricting. That's kind of like the energy with it, okay? And a lot of the time it's like maybe you feel like you can't leave the situation, you feel like you can't leave the circumstance, or for whatever reason, it's not resonating with you to leave yet. Like sometimes it doesn't have to be so intense, okay? A lot of the time when we talk about karmic relationships, karmic dynamics, it's kind of like put into this energy of like intensity, but sometimes a karmic relationship is going to be something like, it doesn't feel intense, right? But when you get out of it, you're kind of like, oh, how did I not see that lesson? Or how did I not see that that person did that to me? Or that that person was behaving that way to me? These types of things, okay? So basically, back to what I was originally saying, was that we come down to the earth plane to clear something, okay? So this is what I've seen psychically. We come down to the earth plane to grow, heal, clear, whatever, X, Y, Z, right? So we come here, we have this mission or dream or whatever it is to complete. Unfortunately, it is a lower vibrational plane and allegedly, okay, you guys are gonna catch my drift, it is taken over by malevolent beings, okay? So because of this, there are a lot of distractions when we come down here. And that's how a lot of people get stuck in a karmic loop and a karmic cycle. Because it's like you come here to complete something, but then it's like, because you've come so many times, there's so much karma that there is to be cleared with these people first, okay? Lessons to be learned before you can even get to your mission, purpose, destiny, XYZ. A lot of the time you'll feel this, especially if you're a 12th house person. I'm also going to say 8th house person as well. Scorpio, Pisces, right? You're gonna feel this intensely, where it's kind of like you have to like swish through, right? Like clear out, right? All these things that don't really serve you because you come down here so many times. Or if you're an old soul, you might resonate with this as well, right? So let's say we don't apply astrology to it, you just feel it in your soul. So that's really what's happening, okay, with the karmic clearance. It's kind of like you come here and there's so much stuff to clear, right? Because you've gotten trapped in a karmic loop, okay, a karmic cycle. And most people who are on the earth plane, this is the situation, is really what it is, because there's a lot of tricks here and a lot of like egoic things, right, that have been thrown at us. And through these things, it's like you might come down and you have this desire to complete, but it's like, oh, look at this shiny object, or look at this shiny object. And we have free will, okay? And because we have free will, that's what makes everything tricky, because it's like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to do this. But on a soul level, your soul still remembers, right? It's like, oh, but we didn't do that thing. You really wanted to do that, right? And you kind of get sucked into like an ego loop where it's like the biggest things on this earth plane, right? Wealth, fame, money, status, biggest things on here, right? Nothing wrong with these things, but it's just kind of like, those are the ego traps, if that makes sense. And the best way to sift through this is to always listen to what your heart space is telling you, okay? As corny as that sounds, okay? Honestly, as corny as that sounds, but that's really what it comes down to. Your heart resonance is always going to resonate with what is most true for you. The next thing that's really helped me on my path is the path of least resistance, okay? So when you kind of get out of like this matrix energy where it's like, you know, very rigid, and it's like, okay, here's the thing. Let me explain to you guys. Here's the thing with like the matrix energy. That's kind of like counterintuitive. So everything's been inverted, right? Some of you guys are going to catch my drift of what I'm saying. And it's like, we're not really meant to be in such a structure, okay, as it has been made out to be, right? Because a structure makes you constantly think about the future, right? Oh, I have to do this to pay this bill, right? Or, I have to go to this appointment or whatever. It's very future oriented. So it takes you out of being in the present, right? The hardest thing to break through is to break through the structure and come into an energy where you're able to be fully present, right? And go with the flow. That's that Piscean energy. That's why a lot of the time I talk about like 12th house Pisces people struggle on the earth plane. All water signs do actually, because it's not very feeling based. It's not a feminine plane. It's a very shadow masculine plane. It's not even masculine, it's shadow masculine, right? And now everyone has adopted these energies within them. I'm gonna post another one of my videos. There's several, you guys can check them out in my metaphysical playlist where I go more in depth about all of these topics. So you guys can kind of click on them if you're interested. But that's really what's happening, okay? So it's not even a masculine, it's a shadow masculine. So everyone's adopted these traits, and it's like the feminine's been suppressed. So the feminine energy is the nurturing, the intuition, the feeling, the emotions, going with the flow, right? You want to be balanced. You don't want to be too much in the feminine either, because then you don't get anything done, okay? Because the feminine's like, la, 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 I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go do that. You want everything to be balanced. You want to have that feminine energy, but you want to create a structure for yourself. What works for yourself, not in this like, box that everyone's kind of been thrown into. So that's the whole issue here, right? So because of all of this, okay, the soul comes down, it wants to do something, gets sucked into these little traps. Okay, there's a lot of traps. There's a lot of traps down here, and most of them fit into whatever the societal norm and expectations are, okay, and things that you're programmed from young. I can't go in depth in this video, but I'm sure some of you guys are going to catch my drift of what those are, okay? If not, maybe I planted the seed and you're going to go research and figure it out on your own. But that's really what's happening, right? So that's what's happening from a metaphysical soul level. Soul has a mission, soul has a goal, soul has something to learn, comes down here to master that thing, right? Learn that thing, live that dream, whatever it is, right? But you come down here and there's so many distractions, especially if you're someone who's working with the light, okay? If you're someone who is working with the light, there is constant, you all. Spiritual WAR fair, okay? So WAR fair, you guys are gonna catch my drift. Constant spiritual WAR fair, I don't know how many times I have to say it, that's being thrown at you from young, okay? And a lot of the time, these things are involved with things that force you to get out of your body, right? Or trauma, right? Trauma is the biggest thing because that's what splits the soul. I'm gonna make a separate video. I don't wanna overwhelm you guys with too much information about soul fragments because I really want to talk about that as well, okay? That's really what happens. So you go through some sort of traumatic experience, and everybody has, okay? It's done by design. And then the soul gets split, right? And then it's like you're not operating out of your divine self. You're operating out of like a lower version of yourself is really what that is, because there's a split, right? And that split, that trauma that has taken place is what's leading you inside of your heart space. This is why healing is most important. So honestly, in the simplest of terms, the way to clear karma is to heal, okay? You have to look at the chakras, you have to look at what's going on, and you want to come out of the lower chakras because those are the biggest wounds on the planet, okay, within the collective, okay? The biggest wounds are in the lower 3 chakras. So I'll give you guys the examples of those. We have root chakra, okay? That's money, finances, abundance. Huge wound, right? As soon as that gets triggered within someone, you get pulled into the root chakra, okay? That's a problem. Another issue down here is safety, security, shelter. It's also to do with food, right? It's also to do with generational trauma. All these things are stuck in your root chakra, okay? So anytime some sort of collective wound gets triggered, okay, that is what comes to the surface. I'll give you guys an example, right? Any sort of division or divisive tactic, you know, men versus women, for example, right? That is like the oldest story ever told. So that is a collective wound, okay? So when that gets triggered, that brings everyone into their lower chakras, okay? So I hope you guys are catching my drift. So the people who are in certain positions, okay, know how to work with these wounds. That's why you need to heal them, because you don't want to be pulled down, you want to go up, okay? When we talk about ascension, that's really what that is. You want to get out of that karmic wheel. You want to basically get to the point where it's like, first of all, you've mastered yourself, you've healed, you've mastered your own triggers, and it's like you're never going to be fully healed, but at least you've mastered the triggers, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm triggered right now and I'm going to go process it in my corner instead of react and then, you know, put myself into a downward spiral, right? You want to heal as much as you can. The ultimate end goal is to not be triggered at all anymore, right? So the thing is, you can look at that as something you're working toward. Don't get sucked into like constantly being like, okay, how can I heal? How can I heal, right? It's a journey, it's a process. Sometimes things aren't going to be shown to you before you're ready, okay? So that's the thing with spiritual evolution. It's like you take one foot in front of the other, and it's like one step at a time to basically get to the place that you're meant to be. So that's the thing. Different souls sign up for different things. We're living in higher vibrational times now. So a lot of the children who are incarnating currently, okay, because we're going into fully different, you know, ball game, right? We're going into a completely different dimension, higher dimension. You know, I'm sure some of you guys have heard, you know, the shift from 3D to 5D. So a lot of these souls that are incarnating are actually incarnating karma free because they're here to build the new, okay? So I'm actually already seeing that with Pluto and Capricorn children, right? They're here to build the new structures. But anyways, this is the whole thing to understand with the whole situation, right? So as we move into the higher vibrations, there's going to be less and less for people to clear, because it's kind of like certain people who incarnated at certain times. It's like, I find this especially with Pluto and Scorpio and older, right? I'm not saying it doesn't apply to Pluto and Sag. It can apply to anyone, really. I'm sure you guys are resonating with it if you clicked on this video. But specifically Pluto and Scorpio, they have so much to clear as a generation as a whole. And then every generation is clearing something different, okay? So check out the Pluto videos to see what your whole generation incarnated to clear together. So that's kind of the thing. It's like different souls signed up for different things, and certain souls signed up to basically clear a lot of karma, right? Like I mentioned, you'll see this a lot of the time in people's natal charts, specifically Scorpionic people, I find, Scorpio 8th house people, and the Piscean 12th house people. These are the people I find are really, really clearing through like a lot of trauma, a lot of generational stuff. It depends where you have it in your natal chart. That's really the whole thing to understand here. By the simplest of terms, it's all about healing. That's how you clear the karma. So something interesting that I've seen psychically a few years ago, actually now, is that you don't actually get to access free will if you don't clear whatever your lower level lessons are. So if you're stuck in those lower 3 chakras and you're operating out of them, right, and you're not integrated yet, you actually aren't able to access free will. That's kind of like the tricks of the trade, right? So it's like once you're able to go fully into your heart space and you're integrated and you mastered certain lessons, only then are you able to play, okay, if that makes sense. So the whole catch here is, right, so I talked about the root chakra already and I kind of went on a tangent. So coming back, root chakra is one of the wounds. Another wound is the sacral chakra, which is going to be sexuality. So we have hypersexualization and we have repression of sexuality, right? Neither of these serve anybody. So that's the thing. And it's like sexual energy is the most powerful energy on the planet. It brings through souls, okay? When we look at it from a higher dimensional perspective. So it's very wounded, okay? I'm not gonna go too much in depth in this video. If you guys want a video on like the tantra and the sexual energy, I can make that separately. That's the sacral chakra. This in here, we have codependencies, we have addictions, we have shame, we have repression of emotions. We have, a lot of the time you're going to notice someone who is more in their sacral chakra, okay? It's like an overflowing cup, okay? Because it physically starts to show on your body. Someone who's more in the sacral, so you're more in like a stagnant energy, you might feel stuck, you might feel like you can't leave, you could be codependent, okay, in one way, shape, or form. Codependency is on a range, okay? It's addictions. So you could be codependent in relationships, okay? Addicted to love or another person or validation or XYZ. Or it can be things like overthinking, right? Or it can actually even be things like constantly watching readings, okay? So you have some sort of, you know, security for the future. I'm just gonna slip that one in there. Also, it can be things like shopping, spending money, anything basically that self-sabotages you is a form of codependent energy, okay? That actually came through as I'm making this video. So that's really interesting, okay? So that's really what's going on. And then you have it on a huge range where it's like, then you have substance abuse, alcohol abuse, you have, you know, drugs where you want to be out of your body, escapism, a form of escapism. So this is going to be the sacral chakra. I find that a lot of the time people who are more feminine energy leaning, and this doesn't matter what gender you were born into, okay? This is the whole thing to understand here. The soul is genderless, right? We take on different genders as we incarnate, okay? That's why we're coming to such a balancing of energies currently. I find personally like Pluto and Sag generation to be very balanced in terms of masculine and feminine energy. Again, regardless of whatever gender they were born into. This is because of the fact so many reincarnations, right? We've gotten to the point where it's like, You've been the man, you've been the woman, right? You've taken on masculine roles, you've taken on feminine roles. We're coming to the point of balance and energies within all of us, right? That's the time that we're moving into. Also, another thing that's coming through to mention is currently we're coming out of the shadow patriarchy, but prior to this, we were actually in the shadow matriarchy. That's why there's a huge rejection to the feminine, okay? That's something huge to understand. I actually learned that from another teacher, that originally we were in the shadow matriarchy, right? That's why there's this like subconscious fear of intuition, psychic gifts, all these sorts of things. Now it's all kind of coming to the surface, which is amazing, right? But it's only accelerated in like the last like 3 to 5 years, I would say, right? Prior to that, there was very few people who were actually out there speaking, right? Openly and freely. If you think about it, and then like way back in the day, they would burn witches and do all these sorts of things because again, there's fear for that feminine energy. So that's what's being integrated and healed right now, okay? Another thing to understand also, shadow masculine and shadow feminine trigger each other, okay? So it's like when someone's shadow masculine, it's going to trigger the shadow feminine. That's a huge thing to understand as well. So anyways, we were shadow feminine, matriarchy, shadow matriarchy. Then we were in a shadow patriarchy, okay? Now we're coming into a balance, okay? That's what I've seen psychically. We're coming into a balance of energies. And again, like I mentioned, you're gonna see this. Every generation is higher vibrational than the last, okay? Less karma to clear, as I mentioned, okay? That's what's happening. We're going into the higher vibrations. So that's really what's taking place, okay? We're all coming out of like the 3D matrix ego trap, okay? The next chakra, okay? So I've been bouncing back and forth, but the next chakra that's also the most wounded chakra is the solar plexus. With the solar plexus chakra, we have ego desires in here. Narcissism is in here. We have the domineering energy, that shadow masculine energy that I was talking about. So sacral is shadow feminine, what I've seen psychically. Solar plexus is shadow masculine, okay? So shadow masculine traits like being domineering, being intimidating on purpose, you know, just like wanting to just like be powerful over other people, like these types of things, okay? That's shadow masculine. The thing is, narcissism, okay, not everyone's a narcissist. I made a video on this as well, so definitely check out that video if you guys are interested. Narcissism, so not everyone's a narcissist, but a lot of people can possess narcissistic traits because the whole system has been up until now narcissistic, okay? We're moving into the higher vibration, so we're coming out of that. That's why this whole term narcissism has been floating around, especially in the last 2 years from what I've noticed, okay? It's being brought to people's attention because the whole system has been this, right? You know, who can you screw over to get ahead? Who can you take this from? Who can you, you know, snake and all these types of things to get ahead, right? That's the narcissistic energy. How can you use this person? How can you siphon off of this person? Whatever, I'm not going to get too much into it. If you guys are interested, you guys can go check out playlists, metaphysical videos or whatever, and I go in depth into all of these topics. So that's really what's happening, okay? So you guys kind of have to understand on a metaphysical level what happens. So basically, souls come down to have some sort of purpose to complete, gets trapped into an ego trap, okay? That's that solar plexus in the shadow. Anytime you feel powerless, solar plexus in the shadow, right? So a lot of the time, like I mentioned, shadow masculine attracts shadow feminine. So the thing is, like sacral in the shadow is struggling with boundaries. So if you struggle with boundaries, you're going to attract someone who's going to take your power away from you or step all over your boundaries, or just be like rude and heartless, right? That's the shadow masculine wound, which is the solar plexus in the shadow. These two usually attract each other, right? Because you're trying to heal and integrate these energies. That's the whole thing here, okay? But back to what I was originally saying, sometimes when you have karma to clear, it's going to be something that's like the simplest thing, okay? It's going to be literally like I mentioned, in a past life, maybe you left someone without an explanation, right? You just kind of like were like, okay, I just want to go travel now for whatever reason, right? You're like, I'm not going to say anything because it doesn't matter. That person kind of felt some type of way. Maybe they felt betrayed. Maybe they felt, you know, like surprised, taken aback. This lifetime, you've incarnated into the same scenario, maybe with that person, to clear that. Okay, maybe you're meant to speak up this time, right? There's so many things. I find the biggest, I already mentioned like the biggest wounds. So those are like the collective wounds that a lot of people have to integrate. But the biggest things I find that people are healing and clearing are these things, which is boundaries, okay? Speaking up, communication, being honest, being authentic, speaking whatever your truth is, which I guess would come more so into the throat chakra if we're looking at the chakras. But yeah, so there's so many different things. It's like, you really have to start to look at things from a different perspective to see what is it that you're clearing, okay? What is it that you're clearing with this person? What is this person teaching me? What am I learning from this person? And like, what are they teaching me in this situation? Because it never has to do with the other person. That's the most important thing to understand, okay? And it's a tough pill to swallow, I know, right? So it's like, it never has to do with the other person or what they did or what they said. You have a wound within yourself and it's like they're just showing you. So as long as you're getting triggered, the trigger is showing you the area that you need to be healed, right? And the thing is, you don't want to operate out of your trigger. For example, abandonment. How did I miss that one? That is one of the biggest wounds in the collective, right? Abandonment wound. So let's say, right, you have a deep-rooted abandonment wound and you don't even realize that you have it. And you're someone now who's kind of like, I always have to be busy and I always have to have something to do. And if this person cancels, I'm going to have a backup person and these types of things. Abandonment wound, okay? That's an abandonment wound. You know, I find a lot of the time people who are so attached to like a super structured schedule have a deep-rooted abandonment wound. Okay, huge thing to understand, right? So that's really what's going on here. And like, this is a huge wound in the collective, because the abandonment wound might bring you into codependency, into abusive dynamics, people taking advantage of you, people using you. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, this happens to people who have a lot of light. Okay, you have a lot of light. And what tends to happen, especially if you have a lot of light, people see it in you before you see it in yourself. So you'll notice in situations, maybe you don't get a promotion that you wanted. That's because maybe the manager's threatened. These types of things, right? Or, you know, someone's afraid to lose you because you are the light generator, right? In the dynamic, but they make you feel like they're the important one and then you're afraid to lose them. These types of things, huge collective wounds. And then it's kind of like you start to do things because you have this wound, and a lot of the time, and when it's in the early stages, you don't even realize you have this going on, right? So you start to do things and it throws you into a spiral, and then it distracts you. Honestly, from my journey, from what I've noticed, I want to say that most things on the earth plane are a distraction. Really. I know that's like probably out there, but I feel like most things that are thrown your way are a distraction from your purpose. So for you to get so in tune with your purpose, you need time, right? You need the time to, you know, be away from people, to untangle yourself out of this karmic web, to be able to reflect, to be able to heal, to be like, actually, what is my soul telling me? What does my soul want me to do, right? And then like really integrate all these sorts of shadows that you may have, again, taken on from past lives, right? A lot of the time, it's like, it might not even have been this lifetime. It's just a pattern that's been happening in past lives. Another one that's coming through to mention, and this is really interesting that it's coming through to mention, because this might resonate with someone out there, but there is a wound, okay, for whoever is tuning in, that deals with unrequited love, okay? And that could be something that is like getting you to basically be in the certain relationships or circumstances that you're in, okay? Where it's kind of like, you might be doing that thing that I was mentioning earlier, where it's like, oh, like I have this person, but I have this backup person, or whatever it is, okay? Because sometimes what tends to happen also is like in past lives, we make vows. So it's kind of like, let's say like whatever, in a past life you got cheated on or whatever, you had the unrequited love situation, and it's kind of like, you made a vow in that life, oh, I'm never gonna feel this way again. And words are spells, and we're not aware of how much words are spells. So what tends to happen is like you made that vow in a past life, and it's like now in this lifetime, it's like maybe nothing ever happened in childhood, right? A lot of the time we talk about childhood, but it's like maybe nothing ever happened for you to react or behave this way, but it's like a past life wound, and it could be a past life vow, right? Where you vowed, I'm never gonna feel that way, right? It's like when you say it with like passion, you create a vow. So there's a lot going on, and you know, I love astrology because it really does give us a little bit more insight as to who you may have been in a past life, what you may have done, what may have happened to you, these types of things, right? And it's kind of like there's always something, right? There's always something. If you have a certain type of fear or like a phobia or something that's like not explained, probably happened in a past life, right? Could have happened in a past life, could have even been like a way you crossed out in a past life, right? And you have this like irrational fear now. I find that that's where past lives come in, right? After you've reflected on your current life and you're like, okay, is it this? Is it this? Is it this thing that happened? Is it that thing that happened? If you really have no answers from this current life, that's when you go to past lives, right? That's really what it is. And, you know, because of the fact that, again, this planet has been led by malevolent beings up until this point, okay, a lot of people are waking up and they're seeing and they're healing. The most important thing is to heal, right? To self-assess and become self-aware and like break through these structures, because not everyone's meant to live in like a cookie cutter type of life, okay? With like, you know, this is your path, and this is, I really think that everyone has a different type of path, right? And it's like if everyone's aspiring to something that they've seen or something that they've been shown or something that, you know, they've seen in a movie or they see other people having or doing or whatever it is, and they think that that's the way that it's meant to be, it's taking you away from what your soul might want for you, right? That's the thing. You need to spend a lot of time reflecting. The thing is, if you don't even know where to start and you're watching this video and maybe you're just like super overwhelmed by all of this information, the thing is, like, the best advice I can give you is what I said to you guys earlier. Listen to the heart space. What does the heart want you to do? A lot of the time what tends to happen is we think everybody else is just like us, okay? So it's kind of like you might have a gift for singing, but you might think everyone can sing. Or you might have a gift for, I don't know, doing some kind of like hand knit thing, right? Like embroidery or whatever it is, right? And you might be like, oh, well, you know, this isn't worth anything because everyone can do it. No, right? You were given that gift. So that's the thing. So it's like a lot of the time it comes naturally to you what you're meant to be doing. You always feel pulled to it. You always feel called to it. You always feel drawn in that area. You might feel drawn to people who do that type of thing that you're interested in, right? So that's kind of like a huge indicator of what you're actually meant to be doing, right? Is the ego that comes in and says, the main wounds, like I mentioned, you're not going to make money, you know, you're going to have to leave your family behind, your friends behind, your town behind, like these types of things, your partner behind, right? Or whatever, you might not be accepted, or that might be like so out of the box, like whatever, all of these stories, right? That's all ego, all right? That's ego, and that takes you away from completing your purpose. And then again, you get trapped on that reincarnation wheel where it's like you didn't get to live this desire. That's what it is. Okay, so the ultimate end goal, from what I've seen psychically, is that you want to end your life with no desires at all. Okay, so when it comes to the end of your life, you don't want to be kind of like, oh, well, I committed all my time to this, but I didn't get to do this. If you say that, you come back again, and you come back down to do that thing that you wanted to do. And it's kind of like, I think because there's so many tricks and traps down here, it's like, I think a lot of people think that like, when they come down here, there's like all these other things that they want to do. And that's a distraction energy. That's what I'm saying, right? So it's like, because you have free will, you're going to be like constantly like, well, I want to do this. And then you end up taking this path. And it's like, I think that's why it's been a 26,000-year cycle for a lot of us, okay, where you've been coming back to do whatever it is that you're meant to do, right? I mean, there's obviously resting time, you go elsewhere and whatever in between, because the soul does travel to other places, but on the earth plane, energetically, from what I've picked up on, again, this is just what I've picked up on, okay, so it might resonate, might not resonate, but I feel like a lot of us are trapped down here. That's really what I feel like I feel like a lot of people are trapped in a reincarnation cycle, and it's kind of like, okay, like we need to break through this, right? We need to break through this energy that we've been in, okay, in this like, cookie cutter box thing that like everyone's been trying to be in, but it's like different souls have different desires. That's really what it is. Okay, I think I'm gonna wrap up this video here because I could probably talk forever about these types of things, but you guys can let me know if there's anything I mentioned in this video that you guys want to know more about or you want me to expand on, and these types of things. But if you didn't get anything out of the video, the main thing to understand to clear karma is healing. Okay, it's healing, it's awareness, it's seeing what people are teaching you and seeing how you can get out of these entanglements, okay, that you've basically, if you've had a lot of incarnations that you've created as time has gone on, right, with other people, and then you don't want to create new entanglements, if that makes sense. So then you don't want to go into like the same patterns again, because there's good karma, like I mentioned, right? So there's people who are here to help you on your journey and on your path, right? But it's like the dark energy is kind of always like a vacuum. It always wants to pull you down, right? So this is what I mean by like spiritual WAR fair down here, because it's like you're always going to be trying to go toward whatever the higher vibrational path is for you, the highest timeline, what your heart desires, like however way you want to label it, right? You're always going to be pulled in that way, but you're also always going to be pulled in the other way, right? Because, the dark energies that exist here want us to stay here to feed their system, okay? That's the best way that I can word it in code words. So I hope you guys are catching my drift, right? So that's the thing. You always want to pull up, okay? You want to go into the higher chakras. You want to go into like the healing energy. You want to go into like the heart space and all these types of things and break through these things, which takes time. It takes time is really what that is, okay? So I hope I answered your questions, okay, regarding of how to clear karma, okay? Or at least gave a little bit more insight and maybe activated some downloads within you guys, and maybe you guys create your own way of how you guys can clear your own karma, right? But this has been my experience so far. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comments below, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.